let's start admitting na. Thank you.
Sa iba kundi sa iyo at sa akin ang simula ng pagbabago. Panahon na para bumangon at paikutin muli.
Good afternoon, everyone. If at all possible, please open your cameras and keep your microphone muted. We hope everyone is prepared, ready, and has eaten their lunch as our program will begin in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
And before we formally begin with this program, let us read first the reminders and house rules for this event. For the reminders, recording. The program is recorded for documentation purposes. Kindly click the proceed button to signify your consent. Mute your audio. If the host or the speakers are talking, please keep your device muted whenever you are not told to speak. Participate. Participate by asking questions during the open forum. Write your question in the chat box.
Now on to our house rule. This webinar is open for all first-time voters. The webinar will be recorded for documentation purposes. Photos will be taken and will be shared on social media. If you have questions for our speakers, please type it in our chat box. Of course, don't forget to be courteous to other participants. Keep the discussion professional. Using of foul and repeat words are strictly prohibited. Only to those participants who have answered the attendance and feedback form of this program will receive an e-certificate for participation.
The term first-time voter can be defined in different ways. It is often taken to mean those young people who are reaching voting age and therefore are facing their first opportunity to vote.
Ang sigaw ng masa, ang bagong pag-asa ay taas kamay ang mga bagong bayani sa harap ng pagsubok.
Once again, for all of those who just came in, if at all possible, open your cameras and keep your microphone muted. And we hope that you are all prepared, ready, and has eaten your lunch. The program will begin in a few minutes.
Sa'yo at sa akin ang simula ng pagbabago.
The term first-time voter can be defined in different ways. It is often taken to mean those young people who are reaching voting age and therefore are facing their first opportunity to vote.
In every election, voter and civic education are necessary to ensure that all constituents, men and women alike, understand their rights, their political system, the contest they are being asked to decide, and how and where to vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Voters Education Webinar, The Power of One Vote, brought to you by UPV, NSTP, LTS, Section 1 and 7. I am CK De La Cruz.
And I am Kyla Sabdal, and we are your host for this afternoon. To begin with, may request everyone's presence as we have our opening prayer to be led by Ma'am Nasita Sarina Nasita, one of the NSTP LTS instructor, and to be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
Almighty Father, Creator of heaven and earth, we glorify and praise you for the abundant blessings you have bestowed upon us. Thank you for the gift of life, wisdom, and strength that you have us experience. Today, as we hold this webinar, we humbly ask for wisdom and understanding on the topics discussed by our resource persons. Give us an open heart and mind to clearly discern the right thing to do and the right choices to have. In this coming election, we pray for peace that transcends all understanding to guard our heart as we make better choices of leaders who will lead our country into a better tomorrow. We pray that you protect us against harm, oppression, and persecution as we exercise our rights. O God, you are the God who reigns in righteousness, and in you there is no injustice. Let your righteousness and justice reign in our country as we give our trust in you. Be with us all throughout this webinar, Lord. Stabilize our connectivity that we will not miss important points for us to know. All this we lay down to you in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, who reigns with you forever and ever. Amen.
Before we begin our program, allow us to read again our reminders and house rules. For our reminders, recording. The program is recorded for documentation purposes. Kindly click the proceed button to signify your consent. Mute your audio. If the host or the speakers are talking, please keep your device muted whenever you are not called to speak. Participate. Participate by asking questions through the open forum. Write your question in the chat box.
And down to our house rules once again. This webinar is open for all first-time voters. The webinar will be recorded for documentation purposes, and photos will be taken and will be shared on social media. If you have questions for our speakers, please type it in our chat box. Be courteous to other participants. Keep the discussion professional. Using of foul and demeaning words are strictly prohibited. Only to those participants who have answered the attendance and feedback form of this program will receive an e-certificate of participation.
So without further ado, to open this scholarly event, I'd like to invite Professor Nathaniel Samson, our NSTP Director, to deliver the message. Please give him a big round of virtual applause.
Kyla and Charles, is the audio okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, especially to our invited guests and speakers. The election fever is now heating up, and for others, it is said that it is now on the so-called last 2 minutes. This is clearly seen on the different social media platforms being flooded with many and all forms of information, both true and fake, and all shapes and colors of campaigning, both negative and pleasant. It is also said that this election is one of the most critical since 1986 EDSA revolution, for it will determine not just our future as a nation that is presently beset with many problems and challenges, but more importantly, an election that will affect the future of the coming generation of Filipinos. It is with these thoughts that I view this activity, the education webinar this afternoon, as a serious effort to educate our fellow Filipinos, and more particularly the first-time voters among the youth and many others. This activity entitled The Power of One, the UPV NSTP LTS Voters Education Webinar. It is hoped that this activity, this NSTP project, though conducted online, will provide the necessary orientation and education to all participants as we all prepare to be involved in the May 9, 2020 election. I would like to commend the proponents of this project under the able membership and guidance of Ma'am Caris Bautista for choosing to engage in this noble and socially relevant undertaking. I would also like to thank our resource persons, invited guests, for the assistance extended for the implementation of this project despite the busy schedules. Here's a wish for a productive and educational afternoon for us all. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon and padayon.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that very, very warm message. At this moment, allow us to introduce our speakers for today. Our first speaker will discuss the rights and responsibilities of first-time voters, the roles of COMELEC, and the do's and don'ts of the new normal polling place. She finished her undergraduate degree at the Central Philippine University and her master's degree in public management from the University of the Philippines, Visayas. She is currently in her second year of taking up Bachelor of Laws in Western Visayas State University and has been part of the Commission on Elections since 2018. Our first speaker is none other than Ms. Eliezer Magote.
Our second speaker will demonstrate to us the function of the vote counting machine. He completed his undergraduate degree on Bachelor of Science in Computer Science at the University of the Philippines, Visayas, became the Google Student Ambassador from 2014 to 2015, a member of various student organizations, namely Genkuken, Letrato, Oikos, among many others, and became part of the Commission on Election since 2017. Our second speaker is no other than Mr. Mel Daniel Ericson Rebuelta.
And now to welcome our first speaker, let us all give a warm round of applause for Ms. Eliezer Magote to talk to us with her talk on the first-time voters.
Thank you, Kyla. Apologies for earlier. I think I was all too excited to talk with everybody. But just so you know, this will only take a short while because my friend later Dan will be giving you the meat and the matter of our discussion for this afternoon. So without further ado, I'll be showing you my slide and here for can it be seen?
Yes, yes, Mel.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon once again. So before I proceed to the do's and don'ts of first-time voters, let's first educate ourselves as to our responsibilities as a voter and of course the functions of the VCMs, the COMELEC in its entirety, and how we go about this election period. So for the topics, these are merely the slides that are given to us, and so that we can get a grasp of what's happening from our national level down to our local level. So for the 2022 national and local elections, let it be known that we have 81 provinces, 146 cities, municipalities, and barangays, and we have 65,831,792 registered voters. And for the information of everybody, 56% of these registered voters belong to the youth sector. It means that 36,700,000 plus of our registered voters are from ages 18 to 41 years old. So a big factor of what's coming after the election comes from our young people. So I really thank the UPV for this initiative and for everybody who's taking time and all the opportunities available to disseminate information, to educate people, and to have this activity in order to extend what should be done, what should we do, and how should we vote. So for the important dates to remember, we have our election period from January 9 to June 8. But the campaign period started last February for the national and March for this local level. So it is important to note that we have different activity to be done this coming elections. It's far from what we used to have since the advent of pandemic and everything that has happened in the past 2 years. We have also adopted protocols in order for us to ensure the safety of our voters and of course the safety of casting our votes. So first, we have the temperature check. During the election period, the Commission on Elections will be providing each precinct or each polling centers with our temperature check and other health and safety protocols. It is important that we have our medical personnel present in every polling centers. So as much as we provide with alcohols and other health and safety materials, we are also encouraging everyone who will be voting this May 9, 2022 to also bring their own personal kits, such as alcohols, tissues, so that we will not bother ourselves, of course, of waiting if there's a need for refill or whatnot. So also, we have our usual activity right after that. We have to go to our electoral boards. We have to fill out the ballots. I will discuss this further earlier. These are just some of the outlines that we will be talking about later on. Okay. So the casting of votes will later be discussed if Dan will be showing you how to use the vote counting machine. But please be reminded that during the election period, everybody is encouraged, or everybody should bring their respective identification so that we will not bother our electoral boards, of course, as to how to find your names and to establish your identity during your voting process. So what are the preventive measures and health and safety protocols? So in our previous resolutions, we are required to use face shields, but earlier it was amended, but that we are only required to wear face mask. We are also required to still adhere to the 1 meter physical distancing. We are required also to have frequent disinfection, or regularly touch surface, and proper cough and sneezing etiquette. And for the information of everybody, our voting time will start from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we are all encouraged to come to our dearest or to our assigned polling centers the earliest possible or the best time possible for us to cast our votes. Okay, for the vote counting machine and demonstration, this will later be given to us by Dan. So I will just give you a glimpse of what you are about to see later. So this is our VCM, or our vote counting machine. So it is designed to automate the counting of votes, to scan and interpret and mark paper ballots on election day, to tabulate, calculate, and transmit the election returns to canvassing and consolidation system. So these are the parts of our vote counting machine. So this will be operated by our EBs or our electoral boards, which are constituted by our DepEd personnel. Okay, so these are the election paraphernalias. One of our directors once said that Philippines is one of the countries with very expensive electoral process. Way back in their time, 10 years ago, they were able to spend 55 million for one province alone. I can only imagine how much we have spent to ensure that we will be able to have our secured voting process this time. It is important to remember that our SD cards, our PIN codes, our I buttons are necessary to ensure the safety of our votes. For the information of everybody also, the ballot, the SD cards, and our vote counting machines are unique in every precinct. So there is no way anybody can duplicate one's vote. So here are the USB transmission device. The big gun is the pre-installed SIM card that transmit the results. But here in Iloilo City, be informed that we don't have the same because it is believed that we have good enough signal to transmit our votes. So here are the VCM functions, and this will later be discussed further by Dan. So this is the ballot. So both sides of the ballot are scanned simultaneously. Both ballots are identified by machine. So it can identify fake, photocopied, duplicate, or if the same has been inserted or scanned, or if it is from different precincts. So if the same, or for example, if your ballot came from Manila, and it will be scanned here in Iloilo, the same will render the ballot, or the VCM will render the ballot invalid. So each precinct has its unique ballot. That's why the Commission is taking its utmost effort to ensure that these ballots are secured, and these ballots are provided solely for the purposes of this specific precinct. So it is encouraged, everyone, if you are a registered voter, you have to maximize in exercising your right to vote. So here are the timing marks for our ballots. It has UV security, so it has also instructions for our voters, precinct number, and all unique features that ensure that the same ballot is only for a specified precinct. So this coming May 7, here in Iloilo City specifically, our final testing and sealing, the FTS. So that's the time when we are to place and secure our respective VCMs to our respective polling precincts. So the installation process will be left to our electoral boards. Okay, here are the voting. Please be reminded that the proper way of shading is oval fully shaded. We tried once, yung oval na yan, nilagyan namin ng petals na parang flowers. hindi siya nabasa ng machine. Meron din kaming tinry na yung dinumihan namin yung entire ballot, hindi rin siya nabasa ng machine. So with that, we are reminding you that when you vote or when you cast your vote, always remember to fully shade the oval as much as possible. Refrain from doing what is placed or indicated in the not recommended side. So maximize the oval. Don't put X, check, or line. Rather, fully shade the oval in our respective ballot. Of course, after the ballot after the same, you are going to insert the ballot later to our vote counting machine. This will be understood further later in our demonstration. But always remember not to overvote, because if you overvote, your vote for a specific position or candidate or candidates, for example, you have only one vote for president. If you inadvertently overvote, the same vote that you have given will not be counted. But of course, in undervoting, only those which you have shaded will be counted by the machine. Okay, so the EBs will instruct you how to insert the ballot and to check your respective receipts. Remember, you have receipts. May resibo po kayo sa pagboboto. So makikita mo kung yung binoto mo ba, ayun din yung lalabas sa resibo. So kahit nga 'di ba sa pagpili kailangan ng resibo, so sa election meron din po tayong resibo. So make sure that you are able to counter-check the votes that you have casted. So ito nga, meron tayong misread ballot, may previously read ballot, at saka invalid ballot. So that ends my slide, but I have a few reminders for those who will be voting, especially for the first-time voters. Kailangan, what are the do's and don'ts during the election? For example, first is, as to cell phones, everybody, or especially the young people, have the propensity to take a selfie sa polling centers. Always be reminded, hindi siya ini-encourage to take selfies, kasi once you get to take a photo of your shaded ballot, it is considered a duplicate copy of the ballot and it is prohibited. So pag may makikitang cellphone, the EBs will ultimately and immediately confiscate your cell phones during or within the voting centers. Also, before you vote, always remember, mag-research. Kung magre-research ka, you have to, it is encouraged. We are not promoting any political candidate, but we are encouraging everyone, when you vote, you have to research the background of your respective candidate. Importante ito para sa masusi na pagpili ng ating kandidato. Also, it is encouraged as well na manood tayo ng debates, ng interviews, any that will prove that our candidates deserve our respective votes. Also, wag mahiyang magtanong, kasi kailangan din ito para ma-enlighten tayo. Always remember, if you are aware of who you are to vote, you are confident that you are placing that candidate in the hands, you are placing your vote in the hands of that candidate, and you are placing the candidate for the next 6 years na mamuno sa ating bansa. Also, alamin kung kailan at saan ka boboto. Paano? As far as I can remember, Iloilo City has already distributed our voters information sheet. Kung sino man sa inyo ang naka-receive ng voters information sheet dito sa Iloilo City, kailangan nating suriin, kasi yan yung sample ballot na magagamit natin sa eleksyon. Pwede natin yung gamitin código para malaman na natin at masigurado natin kung sino yung ating bobotohin. So the Commission has taken maximum efforts para ma-ensure at ma-educate tayo sa ating pagboto sa May 9 elections. Also, huwag kalimutan ang ating voting essentials. As what I have stated earlier, importante na meron tayong alcohol. Hindi siya voting essentials, pero health and safety protocols po siya na kailangan natin na, apart po siya na health and safety protocols na kailangan po natin. So we need to have our health and safety protocol essentials, which is our alcohol and tissues, and also our respective IDs. At also, be an educated voter. Research and always evaluate. You have an ample time to vote for this coming, you have an ample time to research and to get to know your candidate. And also make a list of who you will vote for in this coming elections. So mas maganda na ready ka para mas mabilisan. Kasi remember, the COMELEC has set 800 voters for specific precincts. So marami yan for 6 to 7 p.m. So kailangan mas tamang oras ka sa pagpunta mo para either hindi ka pipila or maaga ka pa or you wouldn't waste much time waiting. So also, earlier this morning, we received a memorandum that we have a precinct finder facility that the COMELEC has issued the same, and you can visit it via COMELEC website. So a voter would only have to provide his or her full name, city, municipality, and provide, and this will also, the online facility will display the matching result for the status of registration record, polling center, and precinct. Pero earlier this morning, kasi marami kaming complaints na na-receive that the same does not reflect of the actual registration status ng ating voters. So to be sure, tandaan na dito, you can go to your nearest OEO. When I say OEO, Office of the Election Officer. So pupunta ka doon, meron kaming na-post na PCVL. Yung PCVL na yon ay yung computerized voters list yon. Maaaring mong ma-check kung nandun ka, kung registered voter ka nga ba talaga, at kung makakaboto ka, at kung saan ka boboto. So first-time voters, remember, you have to check your names. Make sure you are a registered voter first. Tapos you have to check your names sa respective OEOs, and then after doing such, pwede ka na mag-make ng list of your candidates to vote this coming elections. So before I end and give the floor to Mr. Rebuelta, I have to encourage everyone that you can visit your respective SM supermalls near you. Kasi nandito sa Iloilo City, sa ground floor, malapit sa supermarket, we are having our VCM Roadshow. So mamaya, kung makakita kayo ng example ng VCM Roadshow ni Sir Dan, pwede kayong magtungo sa SM right after this kasi pwede kayong makapag-practice voting doon. We are providing you with ballots and you can cast your votes and then it will be counted by the machine. It is an initiative of the Commission para ma-practice kung paano tayo magboto for the coming elections. Of course, the ballots and the name on it also does not state the name of the candidates for these elections. Mga names, ano lang yan, mga pseudonyms lang ata yan. Pero anyway, remember, first-time voters, that what I have said earlier are what we need to know before we cast our votes this coming elections. Also, always remember that our right to suffrage is very important to ensure the future of our country. Tandaan po natin that the people's right to suffrage is the foundation of electoral process. If people are not allowed to vote freely, then yung electoral process natin will become absurd na lang at saka superfluous. So it is important na i-maximize natin. Pero also, as much as we have the right to vote, we also have the right not to vote. But of course, we encourage everyone to cast your votes this coming elections. Pero also, we have also to remember that in these coming elections, we are sure nasa ating bobotohin, that we are confident of we are going to vote for. So with that, I thank you everyone for listening. I give the floor to Mr. Dan Rebuelta, and thank you, young voters, for your time. And I hope that you get to take a few information that you can use for this coming elections. Once again, thank you and good afternoon.
Again, thank you so much, ma'am, for that scholarly talk. And indeed, as a first-time voter, I can completely resonate with all the rights and responsibilities discussed. We have heard of the step-by-step voting, the details on the counting machine, and the voting ballot. And a big reminder to the Gen Z selfie kings and queens to not take a picture of your vote. Hinay-hinay muna tayo sa pag-selfie, tag-take ng selfies and picture. So let us not prolong the agony. So we're jumping right to the next part of our program to demonstrate to us the functions of vote counting machine. Let us welcome our second speaker, Mr. Mel Daniel Ericson Rebuelta. Please give him a virtual round of applause, please.
Thank you, Ma'am Kyla. So, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, so before I start with the VCM and a quick demonstration about the VCM po, no? Allow me to discuss our steps in voting. But before that, no, I was taking notes actually and listening to Ma'am Eli. Uh, I think around 50% of what I'm going to present, she's already covered. So not I'm quite in a loss right now for what I'm going to present. I'm just kidding, no. So allow me to settle some things first po. So uh, I'm quite sure, no, being an alumni of UP Visayas myself, not everyone, hindi kita tanan, dira kita sa Iloilo. What I mean is, we're a melting pot of different cultures and we're from different places. So, for example, ako, I'm from Aklan. So, this still depends, no? Some of the statements that I'm going to say might differ. It really depends sa office of the provincial election supervisor kung sa diin kita registered nga voter. But I want to ano no. So yes, we ginhambal kagina or Ma'am Eli discussed earlier about our kodigo. So she's saying that we are encouraging for our voters, no, especially for our first-time voters to bring their Código. Yes, that is allowed po. In fact, also here in Aklan, we're encouraging people to bring their Código. This is to expedite the voting process because like what Ma'am Eli has said, we have approximately 800 voters or in some cases now we have 800 voters maximum per clustered precinct. So imagine if they still have to decide who they want to vote. So we encourage you to bring your Código. I do have some uh, reminders regarding sa alcohol. So please be reminded po, no? I know some of us are still OC when it comes to cleanliness. So including myself, but I really encourage you po na when you have your when you want to disinfect your hands sa voting center, no, I do encourage you to disinfect or sanitize your hands after you've fed the ballot. Why? If dira ka, no, if you disinfect or sanitize your hands while you're shading the ballot, you might accidentally spray alcohol or spill alcohol sa ballot. So I'll be talking more about the ballot later. Pero if it gets soaked in water or liquid, no, sometimes the VCM or the vote counting machine is unable to appreciate the ballot anymore. So once that happens, you will no longer be given a second chance. No, you're not like Bea Alonzo and John Lloyd Cruz na my second chance. So we only have a second. We only have one chance actually to make our vote count. So we have to remember that po. Yes, I do believe that we need to be an educated voter. I'm really sorry, no. I just want to cover ang ginpang takedown notes ko po so that masettle ta siya. And then regarding sa precinct finder, I know or perhaps some of you already know about the precinct finder. So it's possible, just like what one of my friends earlier, she called me and she was she was really worried because her name won't appear in the precinct finder. It turns out that she doesn't have a middle name. So some of us doesn't actually have a middle name. So if that's the case, please do not forget to write down an underscore for the middle name so that the system will be able to find you. And then, yes, just in case that the precinct finder is not responsive or it's not loading for you, Ma'am Eli told, or I do recall Ma'am Eli mentioned about the Office of the Election Officers or the OEOs. I do want to point out, ma'am and sirs, that you need to go to the OEO or to the COMELEC office where you registered. So, for example, I'm from, let's just say I registered in Iloilo City, then I have to go to Iloilo City Office of the Election Officer, which is at Super. Uh, but if, for example, you're registered in Pototan, you have to go to Pototan to check your registration status because your registration status in Pototan, unfortunately, will not be reflected in Iloilo City. So, kung diin kita nagpa-register, dito po kita mag-check sang aton nga registration status. So, just to check if we're registered voters, I'm quite certain that they also have email addresses or phone numbers just in case no nga we are unable to come there. So, next po, no, yes, we have the right po to vote, of course. Let us make our vote count. And then I heard kagina na we of course have our right not to vote, but I want to remind you po, no, na you you woke up early during the perhaps the last minute of registration. Nagpila ka sang laba-laba, you've been queued for like hours and then you're not going to vote, then you've just wasted or you're going to waste perhaps no, it depends sa imong nga viewpoint if you're going to waste the next 6 years or 3 years depending on whichever or whoever candidate you're vying for. So let us remember po, no, and let us make our votes count. Also, no, regarding sa voting, in case that you're unable to vote, we have what we call the FTVT. It's the failure to vote twice. So if you're unable to vote for 2 consecutive elections, then makakas ang imo nga name sa list of voters. If that happens, then of course, you'd have to apply for reactivation. So, muna siya no ang miscellaneous talks ko po for some of the notes I've taken. So, allow me to proceed sa steps in voting. So, to recap po, no, our elections is on May 9, 2022. This is the national and local elections. So, our voting time has been extended by an hour. It's from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. So, mind you, mga ma'am and sir, no, nakabutang siya, yes, nakabutang siya nga 7 p.m. But if you are in queue, for example, ara ka na sa ano, no, let's just say, sa voting center mo, mga 200 pa ka mo nga nagapila, no, there's 200 of you on queue. Tigin hambal ni Sir Dan nga, until 7 p.m. lang. Yes, until 7 p.m. lang kita pwede mag queue. No, I encourage you to queue up even before 7 p.m. Like let's say 6:30 because the electoral boards, no, what they're going to do, our teachers is going to move at the very back of the queue and they're going to list down names. names of people who are in queue. So meaning to say, no, if you've been listed, no, then you're really entitled to vote. However, my caveat. However, no, what's going to happen is you're going to be called. So your name is going to be called. For example, Eli or Dan Rebuelta. So it's going to be called for I believe it's 3 times. After the third time and you're unable to present yourself to the electoral board member, then you lose your chance to vote for the May 9, 2022 national and local elections. Pero halimbawa, no, let's just say nag 7:01 na, lagpas na siya sang 7 p.m. Tapos may mga 50 pa kamo. As long as you were listed dito sa sa list. Your name is there sa list, and pagtawag sa imo, you're able to present yourself, then you are allowed to vote, no, sa aton nga elections, despite nga naglapaw na kita sa time. Pero if I were you, no, I really do encourage nga mag-queue up kita early, because usually based sa experience ko, I've voted for both the local and national elections for 2018 and 2019, and well, ang queue usually pag-aga pa or is gamay lang. It's not really long, no? Hindi lengthy ang queue ta as compared kung gapahapon na. Sometimes damo nga damo nga gahambal nga I'm busy, so on so forth. And dira sila, they queue up at the very last moment. So if you want to avoid lines, I do encourage you to wake up early. This doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen yearly. So the national and local elections, specifically for the presidential and vice presidential na candidates, only happens every 6 years. So we want to make all of our votes count. So medyo MMK, no, I apologize. We have 8 steps in voting po, no. So
Sir Dan,
yes.
may I ask for a bit of time, sir? Sir, could we request that you move a little of your Zoom controls po? Medyo na ano lang po kasi siya. It's a little medyo naka-black out po kasi yung part of the
Oh,
screen. Yeah.
okay.
Okay
Is
po.
that okay, ma'am?
Better, sir. Also, sir, most of the students kasi we're actually distributed in all areas of the Philippines. So
Yes.
I really appreciate that the Iloilo City um, election office has taken this on, because the voters present here po come from all parts of Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao.
Yes,
Ayan,
ma'am.
sige po. Thank you, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. I do apologize if there are some black screens over the presentation. I think that's in Zoom. So they might have released an update and I was unable to take that into account. Anyways, I do hope that it will be clear because I tried to place everything in center. So like I told you, we have our first, we have 8 steps for voting. So the first step po, no, is to have your temperature checked before entering the voting center. So as you all know, no, we've been with this pandemic for over 2 years now. So, and it's still not over. So, and there are there's another strain that's threatening to spread again, no. So in order to mitigate this, this provision was or this step was introduced for this year's election. So we have to check our temperature. So before you enter the voting center, actually sa may gate, there will be medical personnel manning, and they are required to check your temperature. So for example, your temperature is checked and you don't have fever, then you can proceed to step 2. But in case that the medical personnel checks for your temperature and let's just say you have or you're feverish, then you will be you will be asked to stay sa my corner, and then after a while your temperature will be checked again. If you are still exhibiting fever or fever-like symptoms, then you will be escorted or ushered to what we call the isolated polling place. So it's the IPP. So it doesn't matter whether you are okay, whether you have fever, on E-Day, you will still be able to vote. So what you just need to do is present yourself in your respective voting center. So what is this IPP or the isolated polling place? So it was created by the commission or COMELEC in order to cater people who are exhibiting fever or fever-like symptoms. So instead of disenfranchising them, COMELEC has created this IPP so that we don't disenfranchise anyone. So like what Ma'am Eli and I've been iterating, every vote counts. So as you are now informed, the commission taking into account that you might have fever sa election day still allows you to vote through the IPP. Next step po, or the second step is to proceed to what we call the Voters Assistance Desk or the VAD to secure your precinct number and sequence number. Also to there will be people there manning our voters assistance desk from the PPCRV. They will also be telling you your assigned room or clustered precinct so that you will have no trouble finding your voting center or your classroom assigned where you will vote. Next po is you have to go to your assigned room and introduce yourself to the electoral board. So by stating your name, precinct, and sequence numbers. So with this po, no, this is for formalities. Uh, and at the same time, this is so that they can look for you or search for you from their list. So just to inform you or to brief you, our electoral board or our electoral boards are armed with what we call the EDCBL or the election day computerized voters list. So it's printed out. It has your picture. It even has your signature. This is for verification purposes. So you need not to actually present your ID when you're going to vote. However, sometimes, no, for example, ako, I registered, I believe, back in 2015, and I've matured since then. So my point is, you might look different from the photo. So if the electoral board could not or cannot verify your identity, then that's the time that they might require or they may require an ID from you. So any valid government ID or school ID for us would be sufficient naman po. So you just need to bring one. Next, for the fourth step, so you will be given your ballot. So something like this, and you will be given your ballot secrecy folder, and of course, your marking pen. So I know some of you, again, might be skeptical about the marking pens being contaminated, so on and so forth. But I do encourage you, mga ma'am and sir, to please use the marking pens that's going to be provided by the electoral board. So why am I bringing this up? This is because this marking pen is formulated or just has the right consistency nga hindi siya mag-spread out ang ink. So, hindi mag-spread out yung ink niya and masisira yung scanner. It's because I know some of you or most of you have already used a gel pen or a sign pen. And 'di ba, from experience, when you're writing notes, pag sign pen yung gamit mo, pag na-pass through ng kamay mo and basa, or rather, pag na-pass through siya and basa pa siya, nagse-spread out yung ink. So that's what we're also trying to avoid. Why? Because sa VCM po natin, in the vote counting that machine that we're going to use, it has an optical scanner. So what happens is, if madudumihan yung scanner na yun, tendency is hindi niya na, or the machine won't be able to appreciate future ballots, no, yung mga susunod na ballots. So that would create some unnecessary trouble for the succeeding voters. But I'd like to inform you what happens, sir, if, for example, uh, the machine, the VCM, this happens to the VCM. What happens, for example, if the VCM breaks? Then we still have contingency measures po, no? So to inform you, even if the VCM or the vote counting machine breaks down or gets destroyed, like for example by that blotting of ink, voting will still continue. So what happens is, the electoral board, no, will provide a container for the ballots to be dropped off. So you won't be able to feed your ballot sa machine. Dun lang siya ilalagay sa receptacle until such time na maayos or ma-replace yung machine. So if you might ask, so what happens to my ballot? Hindi ko na siya ma-feed. So I do believe that we have highly competent electoral boards. We also have very vigilant watchers from different political organizations and even volunteers to watch over the our ballots. So with that said, no, you can still be assured that your ballot will be closely guarded. So that is for step number 4. So what happens after you've received your ballot? Of course, you are going to accomplish the ballot by fully shading the oval. So I'm not sure if you can recall what Ma'am Eli has discussed earlier, but you need to fully shade the oval. So I'd like to remind you po, no, na yung oval or circle, you have to fully shade it. Like what Ma'am Eli has discussed, if you're unable to fully shade the oval, then tendency is the machine might not appreciate who you shaded for. Meaning to say, hindi makakount yung vote mo for whoever Juan de la Cruz that might be. So you would have then wasted your time. So you don't want that to happen. You don't want this to happen to your friends, family, and loved ones. So please, we ask, even sa iba naming roadshows, we ask that you please inform your family members, your loved ones who are also voting, or perhaps remind them, no, to fully shade the oval. I'm not saying na every time, no, some of you might argue, bakit sir, X lang naman yun before or check lang naman siya before. Na-try ko po sir dun sa SM. Sabi ni Ma'am Eli kasi meron tayo sa SM, and I checked dun sa SM. Nilagyan ko lang siya sir ng tuldok or nilagyan ko lang siya ng check, pero nabasa pa rin naman siya. So yes po, no, it won't necessarily happen every time. But the point is, are you willing to take that risk that the machine won't appreciate or count your vote? So I believe so not, no? So let us diligently fully shade the ovals. And of course, do not overvote. Because if you overvote po, no, you would be losing your chance. For example, let's say si Eli and si Dan, yung option mo, isa or one of the options, no? Let's just say you have a plethora of options of candidates, but let's just say Dai and Eli are running for president. So in your ballot, ma'am and sirs, I'm not sure if you can see it, but the ballot that I'm holding right now, no, so there are blue and green lines over it. Uh, the name or rather the position the candidates are applying for or running for rather also appears there together with the number of maximum votes allowed. So for president, you're only allowed to vote for one person. So let's just assume you shaded for Eli and then somehow you changed your mind and you want to shade for Dan. So this is an example of overvoting. So what happens is you've now shaded for two candidates. So once you feed your ballot to the VCM, neither Eli nor Dan will receive a vote, no? So ako or si Eli, hindi kami makakatanggap ng vote galing sa iyo because you've shaded both our circles. So you might ask, sir, what if I use correction tape or yes, correction fluid? That is not possible po, no? So still magiging overvote siya. Okay, step number 6 is to feed the ballot into the vote counting machine. So very straightforward. And then the next step is to check for your voter's receipt and deposit it in the receptacle. So just a recap, Ma'am Eli earlier told us no na kailangan natin na or rather the receipt, no, this is what we call po, by the way, this is what we call the VVPAT or the voter verifiable paper audit trail. So this receipt is proof that the machine has indeed interpreted, no, for example, you voted for Eli, then that the machine has indeed interpreted your vote for Eli. So once you're able to once you're able to verify that your vote for Eli was counted, so on and so forth, then you are required to deposit this receipt into a receptacle. So this is not a souvenir po, no? Unlike pag magsha-shopping tayo na we have a receipt, unfortunately, this is not like your normal receipt. So what is this for? This is only for verification. You are not allowed to take photos of the receipt. You're not allowed to bring home this receipt. You're also not allowed to show this receipt to other voters. No? So later sa demo namin, meron dun na yung kasama ko, she will be showing that this receipt is being folded actually. So because the purpose of that rolling or folding of the receipt, even the electoral board, the chairperson, the poll clerk, and the third member, even them, they're not allowed to see your receipt. Even me, someone from COMELEC, I'm not allowed to see your receipt. No one in the voting center except for you who voted uh, and was issued this receipt for specifically is allowed to see this receipt. However, my however, for example, you are contesting that the machine did not precisely or correctly interpret your ballot, then what happens po, no? Instead of dropping it in the receptacle, you will be signing the receipt and you will be surrendering it to the electoral board chairperson. By doing so, you are waiving your privacy and secrecy sa voting. But no, but I want you to remember, some voters pag kasi yung nangyayari, I'm not saying na nangyayari siya, no, for this one, pero yung ibang voters, in my observance or in my observation, yung iba masyadong short-tempered. If this does happen to you, I'm not saying that it will happen, pero ito kasi, this is a mechanism that was thought of by the commission just in case the worst comes or the worst happens. So if in case this happens, please know or please remember that we have proper escalation or of concerns. So you do not argue with the electoral board member. You do not punch the electoral board member. You please patiently surrender and kindly surrender this receipt to your respective electoral board member. Again, I want to iterate that our electoral board members, the teachers, our teachers who will be manning our voting centers, of course, they are highly capable and highly knowledgeable sa fields nila, no? So, just so that you know, before they can serve, they actually are mandated by law to take an exam. They have to pass that exam in order for them to serve. So it's mandated by law that at least one of the members take and pass the exam. So yun po siya, no. Last but not the least, of course, is to have your right forefinger nail stained with indelible ink. Uh, I'd like to inform you po, no. For example, you can choose naman, hindi siya necessarily na right lang, pwede rin naman siyang nasa left. I do apologize if you're hearing buzzing sounds or beeping sounds. It's because the NGCP has just cut off the power for as scheduled. So nonetheless, we will continue. I do hope that I am still here. Can someone please confirm?
Yes, sir.
You are
Thank,
here po.
thank you so much, ma'am. So allow me to proceed sa uh, vote counting machine. So what is the vote counting machine? So this is the vote counting machine po, no? So the vote counting machine is actually not by COMELEC. It's not invented by COMELEC. It's not something COMELEC manufacture. So you're actually renting it out or bought some of them from Smartmatic. So it's actually the SAS 1800 Plus. So SAS stands for Smartmatic Automated Election System. So 1800 Plus is of course the model. So this one, no, it's the same machine that we've used since for the uh, 2019 national and local elections. I just cannot disclose yung security niya, pero from experience from the 2019 elections, it's more secured than ever. So and they promised na or rather based sa procurement committee, yung SD cards niya, which I do believe had questions from the last elections, na some SD cards were easily breaking down, no, or nako-corrupt. Right now hindi na po siya. So they the commission has procured more uh, a more robust and more uh, dependable set of SD cards. So before I proceed sa video that we've recorded, allow me to just brief you with what are the parts of the vote counting machine. So first and foremost, sa front side view natin, let's start dito sa may ilalim. uh, you can see there that is the ballot entry slot or the ballot return slot. So that slot is where we feed the ballots that we're going to use. And sometimes, no, pag hindi siya ina-accept ng machine, dyan din siya nilalabas. So that's why it's called the ballot return slot as well. So just above it, we have the LCD screen. So this is where we see data or information about the VCM. This is where our electoral board can also interact with the machine. So yan yung purpose ng LCD screen. Next to that, meron tayong parang uh, chrome or silver. That is the I button receptacle. So, syempre, our election is very critical. So, kailangan secured din siya. We have physical keys, no? You can think of it na when you're riding your vehicle, 'di ba, you have to use your keys to power it on. So same is true for the VCM. We have our I buttons uh, to unlock the machine. So if you do not have the I button and you do not have the pin or you do not know the pin, despite having the I button, you won't be able to operate the machine. Next is the printer or printer compartment. So this is where we get our receipts or VV-PAT. So next, on the apologies. Next is we have the cast button and the return button. So the cast button is the green check button, and then the return button or the divert button is the uh, red button with the X uh, with X written on it. No, so we do not really use the cast button. However, we will be using the return or divert button. So if your ballot is misread, then we will be using the return button to return the ballot to you. So once it's returned, you actually have three more chances to feed your ballot. So why three more chances? It's because you can feed your ballot in four different orientations. So facing front upwards, facing front downwards, facing back downwards, and facing back upwards. So you have four different orientations. So the headphone port will not be used for this coming elections. Next, in the left side view, we will have our, I want you to please focus sa A and B. So ano yung nasa A and B? This is where we place our SD card this is our SD card slot. So this is where we place our SD cards. What I want you to know is that the VCM or the vote counting machine is actually generic. So what do you mean when you say generic, sir? Without the SD cards po, no, you can power on the VCM pero it won't work. The operating system and yung data that's being stored by the VCM, everything is in the SD cards. So pag wala yung, no, sorry, yung operating system pala nasa VCM naman. Pero yung yung data niya nandyan sa SD cards. So pag wala yung SD cards, wala rin siyang madedetect na data. So the machine won't work. So kasi po yung mga ballots natin naka-pair yan sa SD card. So the main SD card and the backup SD card. So I will skip yung peripherals niya, just a quick run through. So may mga ano tayo, no, pin codes, I buttons, SD cards. So ganyan po, we have the SD cards. So we have already, again, to remind everyone na it is very important that we fully shade the circle. So if you partially shade it kasi or if you overshade, pero ako honestly, nandyan ako sa baba sa circle overshaded. Not too much, no? Kasi medyo pasmado ako. So sometimes nag-overshade. Pero very, very, very little lang yung paglagpas niya. That is still okay or accepted. Pero yung risk mo kasi, again, pag partially shaded lang siya, just like with the other four shown in screen, you risk na hindi mababasa ni machine kung para kanino ka nag-vote. So, allow me to check. So, ito again, no, that is our sample of our official ballot. I want you to know po, mga ma'am and sir, na meron tayong timing marks, meron tayong name of election. So yung timing marks, it helps yung VCM natin to know who we voted for. Tapos yung name and place of elections, it is for you to verify and even for the electoral board to verify na indeed yung ballots para sa kanila. So, yung mga ballots po kasi natin, mga ma'am and sir, like what Ma'am Eli said, if you're there in Iloilo City and then, for example, you receive a ballot or a ballot that's for, let's just say, intended for Aklan, nagkapalitan tayo ng mga ballots, hindi yan siya pa isa-isa. Usually, if this happens, lahat ng ballots na para sa Aklan sana nandyan sa inyo and then lahat ng para sa Iloilo City nandito sa amin. So, ganyan yung usual na nangyayari kasi yung mga ballots natin, naka-bundle yan siya. So, hindi talaga mangyayari na may isa lang na ballot na intended siya for Iloilo tapos napunta dyan sa iyo. That's very far and remote. So, anyways, moving on, just in case no that happens, you're able to verify it sa name of elections and the name of place. So, pag nangyari yon mga ma'am and sir, halimbawa, yung ginamit mo is nandyan ka sa Iloilo City, tapos yung ginamit mo intended for Kalibo, Aklan, then the machine will detect your ballot as an invalid ballot. When we say invalid ballot, hindi naman siya necessarily na fake na ballot. When we say invalid ballot, it's because yung yung naka-configure na sa SD card, hindi siya nagma-match yung ano niya. So kasi yung data niya nandyan yan naka-store sa QR code. And allow me to share. So, nandyan siya sa QR code. So, pag hindi siya nag-match dun sa SD card, then the VCM will treat it as an invalid ballot. Tapos, ayun, may instruction tayo sa voter. So, again, you will be reminded there. It's in Tagalog or Filipino, by the way. So, you will be reminded po to please fully shade the circle. We also have the NPO security, the clustered precincts for that ballot, and a box intended for the signature of the chairperson, and lastly, a UV security. So hindi nyo talaga siya ma-appreciate even dyan sa slides, and actually medyo mahirap rin siya makita. Pero yung UV security ink niya, same lang yung pattern niya from the previous na election, which is Philippine flag. So with all that said po, no, I want you to remember, please do not write anything else sa ballot nyo. Wag nyo pong dumihan yung ballot nyo. Wag nyo pong sulatan ng pangalan nyo. Wag nyo pong sulatan ng pangalan ng crush nyo. Wag nyong gawing papel na to take down notes kung ano yung number ng crush mo. So, treat your ballot as something sacred. So, treat it with care. Kasi mamaya sa demonstration namin, makikita nyo na uh, pag nasulatan nyo kasi, pag na-spoil nyo yung ballot nyo, tendency is hindi na rin siya mababasa ni machine. Pag hindi na siya nabasa ni machine, then you might lose your chance to feed. Sometimes, pag iniba yung orientation, nababasa naman siya. Pero let's just say, naka 4 tries ka na nag-feed ng ballot, after your 4th try, hindi na yan ipapapasok sa'yo sa machine. Kasi na-exhaust mo na yung number of tries mo na pwede mong i-feed in different orientations yung ballot mo. So, how the VCM counts, of course, it checks for the presence of security marks, such as the timing marks rather, and the UV ink. Pag wala yon or pag nadumihan yung mga timing marks, pag nadumihan yung UV ink, yun nga, tendency is even yung even yung QR code, pag nadumihan yan, hindi na siya. And mind you po, both phases siya, 'di ba? Sinabi ni Ma'am Eli kanina na simultaneous yung pag-scan sa ballot natin. So even halimbawa sa harap lang yung nadumihan, affected na yung buong ballot. So it won't accept that spoiled ballot na. So wala ka na tapos chance. So it will check if, again, yun nga, sinabi ko, if yung configuration niya sa SD card nagmamatch. Pag okay, then tatanggapin niya. Pag hindi, magiging invalid ballot siya. So, to recap, i-check niya yung pag-shade natin, no? So, dapat ma-reach niya yung threshold natin. So, I will tell you this in advance. Yung threshold for road shows, it's usually low, so mababa lang siya. Kasi the purpose is for you to really appreciate yung pag-ano. Pero sa actual election, talagang kasi para, just in case, may speck of dust na nasama, tuldok siya, at least hindi siya makakount as vote. So, tinataasan yung threshold para kung halimbawa merong dumi, which I do believe na hindi rin naman siya mangyayari, hindi siya ma-appreciate or hindi siya makakount. So, ganun po, no? Please be reminded to fully shade the circle or oval. So, yung circle po, by the way, mga ma'am and sir, it appears before. So, bago yung pangalan ng candidate na gusto natin, the circle will appear before their name. So hindi yung circle na after ng pangalan nila. So to give you a recap regarding sa overvote, no? Pag sumobra yung if you shade for the maximum number of allowed seats for this position, then no candidate in for that position, at least for you, wala siyang makakount. Now, meron rin tayong tinatawag na undervote. So, as you all know, 'di ba? Meron rin tayong mga let's just say example, yes, sa senators. Meron tayong senators and we need to vote for 12 or 12 senators. So, for example, isa lang yung gusto mo. Siya lang talaga yung gusto mo na senators. Siya lang yung, sa kanya lang nag-a-align yung principles mo. So, you don't necessarily need to force yourself to look for 11 more senators that you might like. For example, isa lang yung gusto mong botohan, then sa kanya ka lang mag-shade. What happens is papasok yung vote mo as an undervote. Pag naging undervote yung vote mo, this is perfectly okay. Meaning to say that you only want to vote for this specific Juan de la Cruz. Tapos yung gawin nating example yung sa senators, no, 12. So you only voted for one senatorial candidate, isa lang yung shinaydan mo, meaning to say, yung 11 na yun, mapiprint out siya or it will be printed in the voter verifiable paper audit trail as 11 na undervote. Meaning to say, you did not vote for 11 more candidates. So which is better, an undervote or an overvote? So definitely an undervote. Kasi pag undervote po tayo, lahat ng everyone that we've shaded for will be counted. So lahat ng pinagbotohan natin, basta undervote siya, papasok siya. Pero pag overvote, ni isa niyan walang makakatanggap ng vote from you. So ayun siya no. So allow me to share yung ginawa naming video presentation regarding sa vote counting machine.
Good day, my name is Matt, and we will demonstrate the vote counting machine. In here we have the LCD where we can see the information, various informations, and on the side is the SD card slots. As you can see now, this is sealed to prevent unwanted access.
Hey everyone, I'm Monica, and today we're gonna start feeding the ballot to the VCM. Ma'am Caroline.
Hi, good day. With me is a ballot that I did not shade.
As you can see, the VCM is now interpreting your ballot. On election day, this VVPAT is being rolled for the data privacy of the voter. But on the roadshow demo, we're gonna show the result to you. So this is the result of our Ma'am Caroline's vote because
She did not vote for
She
any
did.
person or candidate.
And now, let's proceed to our next voter, Alan Grace.
Hi, good day. With me is a ballot that I overvoted the presidential candidate and undervoted the senatorial candidate.
As you can see, this is the result of Ma'am Allen Gray's vote, who overvoted the president and undervoted the senator. And now, let's proceed to our next voter, Ma'am Renalyn.
Good day. In my case, I wrote my name on the ballot.
As you can see, the paper inserted was misread. This is because Renalyn wrote her name on the ballot. So it's very important that you do not write anything else on the ballot. Keep it simple and keep it clean.
And for our last voter today, Ma'am Nina.
Hi, good day. With me is a ballot that's intended for another voting center.
So the VCM has accepted the ballot of Nina that belongs to another voting center. As you can see, the VCM is stating that the ballot is invalid. This is because this ballot is for another voting center. Because of the QR code, the VCM can detect whether or not this certain ballot belongs to this certain voting center. So uh, we will divert the ballot by pressing the X, and it will not be returned to the voter because it was an invalid ballot.
And that's for our BCM demonstration. Abog na salamat kinyo tanan.
So that is it po for my talk regarding sa vote counting machine and our quick demonstration. Again, after this Zoom meeting po, like what Ma'am Eli has told us, if you want to try yung vote counting machine natin, meron po sa SM malls. So I really encourage you to go there, especially if it's your first time to try out yung vote counting machine natin. Thank you so much po.
And thank you so much, Sir Dan, for that comprehensive and very enlightening talk and demonstration. Indeed, as what Mr. Dan said, we only have one chance to vote this coming May elections. So to all of us, including me, always take good care of your ballots and ensure that they are neat and clean. Correct and proper shading and voting are crucial to secure our vote. So ayon, at this moment, our virtual stage is now open for your questions and clarifications regarding the talks and demonstrations of our speakers. May I ask if Ma'am Caris is already around to moderate our Q&A portion? Okay, so I guess that we have questions here for our speakers. Ma'am and sir, are you still here pa po ba? Okay, again, so if you guys have questions for our speakers, you may use our chat box to write down your questions. So kapag may mga tanong kayo dyan, well, speak now or forever hold your peace. So if you have questions, especially for us, including me, kahit ako kanina, masyadong marami akong mga terms na, nalaman. And I think they are all vital in actually knowing and preparing ourselves for the coming elections. So, ayun. I think we have here Miss Patricia Joy Samaniego to moderate our Q&A portion. Miss Pat?
Yes, hello po. We have a couple questions here. So to recap, we'll start with one of the questions here. To recap, how do we call attention if the receipt does not match the votes we cast? So for example, in the situation that we notice in our receipt, for some reason it doesn't match up with the votes that we decided to put in for our answers. How exactly would we call attention to this? Is there someone we can reach out to clarify or correct this situation?
Okay. Hello po again, no. Thank you so much for that question. So in your voting center po, there will be 3 electoral boards. To recap, meron tayong chairperson, meron tayong poll clerk, and meron tayong third member. So you can simply approach po yung chairperson just in case it happens po. You can approach the chairperson and inform them of this unfortunate event. Then yun nga po yung process, no. So you have to sign your receipt, yung resibo, you have to sign it and surrender it to the chairperson who will do all the necessary processes for you. So they will be the one to indicate this in the minutes of the election in that voting center. So all you really need to do po, no, is surrender your receipt, duly signed receipt, to the chairperson and inform them na yun nga yung case natin. So Also, you can or you will be able to identify them na siya yung chairperson because may ID naman sila. So, with that, no, so makikilala nyo rin po na siya yung chairperson. And siya rin kasi yung yung nagsasign ng official ballots natin. So, for sure, the chairperson can be easily found or located within the voting center. What I want you to know is they will be there po from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. So for sure, andyan sila and you won't have a hard time looking for this right person po. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, in that case, you don't need to worry about getting another ballot, right? If we have that error, we just go to the person to consult with them, so we don't have to worry about going through the process once again. We just consult that person, and then they'll start to be able to handle it. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. To clarify, you won't be given another or an extra ballot. So it's because you've already casted your ballot. So what happens is you will be escalating this matter to the chairperson, and then they will be writing it in the minutes, and which is ano po, it will then be subject for verification and manual audit. So yun yung that's basically what's going to happen. So it will be manually appreciated po, tapos yung but to give you an insight, at least here in Aklan po, yun kasi yung alam ko na na stats. Here in Aklan, for the previous national and local elections, automated national and local elections, which was conducted noong 2019, we have received, or yung rating niya is 100% yung accuracy ng machine. Meaning to say, kung ano yung shinade ng voter, yun din po yung lumabas sa receipt nila. Yung po yung present ko kanina na that's just a situation. It can happen pero very very far out na po. So given din yung yung what's this? Given din yung figures from last election po na 100% yung accuracy ng machines sa pag interpret, at least here in Aklan, then I'm quite confident po na hindi siya mangyayari. And also just to give you some more insights, may tinatawag din po kasi tayo na random manual audit. So there's this team na nagko-conduct niyan. So it's from the Senate and COMELEC. So yun siya. So it's a joint partnership, and so far 100% yung accuracy, or close to 100% yung accuracy ng machines.
Thank you, sir. That's a great relief to know that there's so many measures being taken place to assure the accuracy and the consistency of all the voting. So, in accordance with that, we'd like to know, is there any way to kind of observe or to be informed if all the votes have been counted and all the votes have been accounted for? Is there a way to kind of I know that we were talking earlier about the confidentiality of each vote, but is there any way to know and like ensure that all votes have been appropriately counted and noted for?
I cannot ma'am. Actually there's that way for the VCM. It actually is able to count how many votes, but I'd like to manage your expectations. It cannot count the number of misread ballots, but the VCM actually has the capability or the capacity to count the number of it has the capacity or the capability to count the number of uh, ballots appreciated. So and at the end of the election or electoral process po, by the end at 7 p.m., the VCM will be printing out what we call the statistical report. So this one po, nakikita siya agad ng watchers natin. So they're able to verify it. So yun yung yung pinanghahawakan po kasi natin is the uh, election returns. So if they have questions, kung sinasabi nilang hindi siya nagma-match yung makikita rin agad nila kasi hindi lang tayo purely digital. So the machine itself before I want to emphasize, before transmitting results to the board of canvassers and to different servers, it will print what we call the election returns. And this is given to our diligent watchers po, no? Meron yung hindi ko po memorized na yung kung kani-kanino yan ibibigay, pero definitely binibigyan yan yung mga watchers natin. Some are being sent to the Senate and the board of canvassers. So meron tayong paper audit trail. So dun natin nakikita kung tama yung pag-appreciate ng votes natin and kung ilan yung votes or number of ballots that was appreciated by the machine.
Okay, thank you, sir. That clarifies a lot. So we'll answer just two more questions so that way we'll have time for the rest of the program. So I think one that's very relevant during this time, especially in COVID, is the fact that there are going to be people who may struggle in enacting their ballots in the voting place. For example, those of like parents or grandparents who may not have the physical capability to work by themselves to vote, or they might need assistance. Is there people who would be able to also assist in maybe helping transport them to the different areas or assisting them with filling in the ballot? Is there any measures in place for that kind of situation in that part? Thank you, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Here in Aklan, this is not applicable because all our voting centers are in ground floors. So, and all of our voting centers po are easily accessible by anyone and everyone. So, the one that I'm going to tackle, it's not applicable here in us, but in some areas where there are voting centers in different floor levels. Let's say they're in the third floor of a certain building. Then what happens is we, or rather the election officer, uh, prior to this election should have established what we call the emergency accessible polling place. So this is something na should allow yung voters natin na hindi makaakyat or have difficulties reaching voting centers na nasa iba pang floors. Basically what happens is they just have to wait sa emergency accessible polling place natin, and then they can vote there. So without needing to go up without needing to go up sa different floors pa, no, or without having to walk that far. So it was specially designed or created for voters na who have difficulty reaching different floors, especially na not all our schools, no. I do believe not even one school or voting center has an escalator or a lift, an elevator. So yun siya. Also po, before before the before our registration period for the May 9, 2022 national and local elections ended, we had this voter registration po wherein voters could have updated their records and signify na they need assistance. However, of course, no, you can never expect what life has to offer for you. I mean, today you're okay, and then maybe a few days later you're not. So with this, no, halimbawa, you weren't disabled before, tapos naging disabled ka just in time for E-Day, then you can actually request for an assistor from the electoral board po. Unfortunately, our watchers are not allowed to serve as assistors. We call them assistors po. So they're not allowed to it is only the electoral board who can serve as assistors because po no one of the requirements or prerequisites of being an electoral board is you have to be impartial, and you must not be related to any candidate within the fourth civil degree. So yun siya. However, no, I'm not dictating na dapat electoral board lang. So if they were able to signify before na if they were able to signify before that they need an assistor, then definitely their assistor can come with them and assist them. Of course, this is bound by certain limitations, such as they need to be living under the same household. So hindi pwedeng yung relative niya, let's just say na from another province, pupuntahan siya, tas magiging assistor niya. So that's not allowed. So what's allowed is they should be living under one household. So you might raise another concern. For example, what if hindi niya kamag-anak yun? Let's just say katulong nila. So as long as this person is living under the same household, then they can declare this this Juan de la Cruz as their person of confidence. So pwedeng siya yung maging assistor po. I hope that satisfies your question po.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. That was a very reassuring to know, and I'm really happy that many things were taken into considerations, considering the situation, and there's always issues that might come up with people, but they're still allowed to be able to vote no matter the circumstance. So we're very appreciative of that for you and answering that question and all the other questions that I've been inquiring about so far. So we'll wrap up the moderated Q&A section there, and we'll have the hosts take it away to the next part of the program. Thank you again, sir, for all the insights that you have given us.
I think that is it for our Q&A. Thank you so much, Ms. Pat, for moderating our Q&A. We're almost at the end of our program, but before we proceed, let us award the Certificate of Appreciation to our speakers. Allow me to read the citation. Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Ms. Eliezer Magote, the Election Assistant 2 of the Office of the City Election Officer, Iloilo City, for sharing her expertise and knowledge for the webinar entitled The Power of One Vote, given on this day, 23rd of April 2022. Signed, Dr. Philip E. and P. Padilla, the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Professor Nathaniel G. Samson, the NSTP Director, and Ms. Carice Emeline M. Bautista, the NSTP LTS Instructor. The same certificate of the same citation is also presented to Mr. Mel Daniel Ericson Rebuelta. Thank you so much, Mr. and Ma'am. Once again, thank you again so much to our speakers for giving their time, their effort, and knowledge to enlighten us during this coming 2022 elections. Especially, as a first-time voter, including myself, from your talks, we learned a lot, and we hope that we have this kind of event with you in the future. So once again, I ask everyone to please give a warm, big virtual round of applause to our speakers for this afternoon. And before anything else, I'd like to request that everyone to turn on your cameras because we have a photo opportunity together with our speakers. So I also request Ms. Frijan Francisco, our tech, to take the screenshots for us. So we ask of you guys to please turn on your cameras and show us your handsome and beautiful faces for this afternoon that are, of course, election ready.
Hello po. So there are 2 pages po. So smile lang po kayo throughout the picture taking. Okay. So first page muna. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. And then isa pa po for the other page. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay po. Thank you.
And thank you so much, everyone, for you can keep your cameras on to stimulate our event this afternoon. So I know that we understand that the talks here are filled with proficient information that all our first-time voters, like I said, including myself, can make use of. And before we proceed, I believe we also want to know more about I think about NAMFREL, and probably it's something that most of us here are not familiar with. So to give us a little light, later on we'll be hearing a lot more about NAMFREL, but in order to give us a little light and information about what NAMFREL is, we ask everyone to direct your attention to our screen for a little introduction about NAMFREL.
higit pa sa isang oportunidad na maihayag ang ating tinig. Ang pagboto ng mamamayan ay isang karapatan na hindi dapat masayang. Maging NAFREL volunteer para ipaglaban ang ating karapatan at tinig. Bantayan ng boto, bantayan ng bayan. Panan mo ang iyong parte sa malayang halalan. Mahalagang mabantayan ito dahil sa isang boto magsisimula ang pagbabago sa bayan. Maging NAFREL volunteer at sama-sama nating bantayan itong bagong pahina ng ating kasaysayan. Bantayan ng boto, bantayan ng bayan.
Ayan, at this moment, let us all welcome Professor Ruben Gamala, the head of UPV Pahinungod, a senior faculty member of the Department of Management of the College of Management, and is also the current Visayas head of the National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, as he invites us to the project NAMFREL. Let us all give him a virtual round of applause. Sir?
Yes, maayong hapon, magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well po.
Very good. Uy, bakit what happened? Bakit nag-question and answer tayo? Teka muna ha. Uy. Ako lang ang gumagamit dito, di ba? All right. My apologies on that. All right. Dear first-time voters, this afternoon I'm going to share with you an opportunity after listening to the lecture or information or your orientation on how to go about your voting. This time it's more than just the voting. Well, voting is your right, of course, that's right, but you can even do more. You can push yourself a bit more. And but before I proceed, I'd like to acknowledge Miss Eli and Mr. Dan. I'm so surprised to see him here, no? I think kayo ba yung election officer ng Aklan, Dan? He was my student in Niagao before. All right, let me proceed directly. So my topic is about volunteering with NAMFREL for the May 9, 2022 national and local elections. This is the outline of my presentation. What is NAMFREL? Why volunteer with NAMFREL? Of course, it's not only NAMFREL you can volunteer. There are other political parties you can volunteer or paid, something like that, no? Volunteering but paid. May mga PPCRB din, but this afternoon I'll focus my talk on NAMFREL. So what are my expected roles and responsibilities as NAMFREL volunteer? And what do I need to do to prepare as one? And on our side, panawagan po ito, manpower needed, and what you can do even as first-time voters, and some important reminders. Right. You will see this logo. This is NAMFREL. And NAMFREL stands for National Citizens Movement for Free Elections, which is the first citizen-led national election monitoring organization in the Philippines. And because of that successful experience in the Philippines, it also paved the way for other countries to also tap on the NAMFREL experience. NAMFREL was first accredited by COMELEC as its citizens' arm in 1983, and as an accredited citizens' arm, it monitored its first election in 1984, which was the Batasang Pambansa, and the most popular, most controversial, historic 1986 presidential snap elections. And in-emphasize ko yan, ha? The most controversial, historic presidential snap elections of 1986. This is the scene in the NAMFREL Operation Quick Count in LaSalle at LaSalle Green Hills in 1986. Because NAMFREL, as a citizen's accredited arm is allowed by COMELEC to do a parallel operation quick count. While COMELEC is doing its own official counting and canvassing, NAMFREL also is doing side by side with that of COMELEC. But of course, since NAMFREL is a private group, it yields faster result compared to COMELEC, but still the official result is the one by COMELEC. So NAMFREL pioneered the use of parallel vote tabulation called Operation Quick Count from 1984 to 2007. So internationally, since the mid-80s, NAMFREL volunteers have worked as trainers, observer team members, election administrators, and resource persons in countries outside the Philippines because of our pioneering experience. So ano po yung vision ng NAMFREL? The vision of NAMFREL is to strengthen democracy through helping ensure clean, honest, and credible elections. Kayong mga first-time voters, I know you're excited, but with all the lectures ni Sir Dan kanina and ni Miss Eli, you want your votes counted na hindi siya madi-disqualify. So while COMELEC is doing its own share, on the other side also, from NAMFREL is also supplementing what COMELEC is doing. The mission of NAMFREL is to lead in promoting volunteerism to ensure participative, transparent, and credible elections in order for citizens to realize the power of their votes, and not only during the election, but after the election, these elected officials are in the office already. We at NAMFREL are also there to check on their accountability regarding their duties and responsibilities, yung mga campaign promises nila, and platform of government. So those are the mandate of NAMFREL. So if you're a volunteer with NAMFREL, this is the spot you will be in the organizational hierarchy. Ito yung observer or volunteer. And then that goes up to the National Secretariat. NAMFREL has 4 projects. Nag-iba-iba siya every year, but for this year, 4. One is the automated election system monitoring, open election data, random manual audit, and the parallel vote tabulation. Nabanggit na rin yan kanina ni Sir Dan ang random manual audit, but let me go through quickly lang. The automated election system is the one explained by Sir Dan and Ms. Ella a while ago, okay, for the past 1.5 hours. So yun yung automated election system na during our time, of course, I'm talking of several decades already. It's very, very manual. No? It's very tedious process. It takes a long time. But now under the automated election system, it has been modernized such that right after the polling precinct closes at 7 o'clock or a little extension because of, sabi ni Sir Dan kanina, other voters who may be in the vicinity are still allowed to vote beyond 7 o'clock in the evening. Then after that, the canvassing follows. So nung araw, the canvassing would run up to the next day pa. Okay, start immediately ang canvassing, but the process goes on until the next day or 2 days, depending on the size of the polling precinct. But now, you know what, guys? What happens is once the election has been declared closed already, and then magka-canvassing na, all they need to do by the 3 electoral board members is to activate the VCM, and it's going to yield 30 receipts, no? ng results na yan. So that those 30 sets will be distributed among the different parties, political parties represented, and the 28th copy of that goes to the NAMFREL volunteer. So if you're a NAMFREL volunteer and you are assigned in that area, then you are entitled to get for NAMFREL, not for you to keep, for NAMFREL, the 28th copy. Okay. We have gone a long way sa election system natin through the automated system. Second is the open election data. NAMFREL requests election data and other relevant information from the COMELEC to be disseminated to the public. So while COMELEC is doing its own public information dissemination through the open election data, NAMFREL is also able to access this information with COMELEC and also assist COMELEC in the information dissemination. The third one is the random manual audit. This is quite interesting. But this year, mag-iba na pag-implement ng random manual audit. Sabi ni Sir Dan kanina, the random manual audit is performed siya on the day of the election. Ang purpose ito is to test the accuracy of the vote counting machines, to test the accuracy whether yung ina-appreciate ng VCM sa mga ballots cast are accurate or not. Are they recorded? Tapos, how do you check on that? Gagawin natin manually, mano-mano. Okay? But hindi sa lahat ng mga voting centers ay gagawin ang random manual audit. Randomly lang siya na gagawin. And for this year, as in the past, no, the COMELEC will declare one polling precinct in one district na which will be subject for random manual audit. Where before the random manual audit is done right at the polling center, this time hindi na po siya gagawin dito. This will be done na papadala na yung VCM na yon kung saan na-identify ng COMELEC, ipapadala siya sa Manila, doon na gagawin ang random manual audit. Again, wala itong bearing sa result ng election. It will just help in the future conduct of elections to improve the accuracy of our vote counting machines. I have experienced this twice already, and it's so interesting. Ang result ng VCM, ng automated system, and then the manual system, very, very close naman siya. So accurate pa rin yung automated election system natin. And the last is the parallel vote tabulation. So mention ko na kanina, yung picture na yun, that was the 1986. That paved the way to that historic day in 1986. Because okay, yun nila. So, COMELEC is doing some tabulation and canvassing on the side. NAMFREL is also doing its own thing, but the official is the one by COMELEC. So, baka nag-volunteer kayo doon and then makita nyo na nag-observe kayo na, ba't ang layo ni diferensya ng COMELEC and NAMFREL? And then, yun, nag-Twitter na kayo, ano na pinalabas, hindi po siya dapat, right? It's still the COMELEC's figure which remains official. Tanong ngayon sa atin ay, after napakinggan nyo ang presentation ni Dan at saka ni Eli, magboboto na kayo, how to vote, how to check that your vote are counted by the machine. The other one naman, itong question naman is, what else can you do aside from just counting, casting your votes? All right? So we are inviting you to volunteer with NAMFREL. The May 9, 2022 national and local elections is certainly a hotly contested election. You have seen that, no? Padamihan ng gathering ng crowds, kung ano man yung malasibuyas ba yung ulo na yun or whatever ba na mga padamihan ng figures. Kasi ganun po talaga siya ka very, very contested the election ito. It is a phenomenal event that should be protected to ensure public trust on the electoral process so that public interest may be preserved and upheld. Ito lang aking prayer. Sana lang it will not bring us back to the 1986 People Power Revolution. Kasi malaki ang papel ng NAMFREL doon sa 1986 na yan. What is that 1986 People Power Revolution, otherwise known as EDSA 1? The details of that, you ask your parents because it's a similar scenario, similar personalities are involved then and now. Kaya we need more people to be NAMFREL volunteers or observers. NAMFREL is a global trendsetter on taking proactive steps as citizens watchdogs of the electoral process. It is a duly accredited citizens arm by the COMELEC for the 2022 national and local elections. And we're really happy and proud to say this time that we are the duly accredited citizens arm by the COMELEC because in the last 2019, medyo hindi siya full accreditation. But in the past, we got that full accreditation. It's just that we don't know talaga ang system ng COMELEC on their accreditation. So that is what we got. Now, NAMFREL provides real-life and on-the-ground first-hand experience and learning on the Philippine elections, such as automated election system, random manual audit, etc., etc. Hindi ito tinuturo sa atin sa classroom. Kahit may mga subjects pa tayo sa political science, but itong details sa pakinggan nyo ngayong hapon, kay sa Ma'am Ella at kay Sir Dan, are the things that you will encounter and you will experience. However, you will do that only on the election day. So yung kwento mo niyan will happen after that pa. So, but if you're a non-FREL volunteer, you will experience more because you will be in the same room with the 3 members of the electoral board and you will be seated, maganda ito ngayon, this time ha, if you volunteer with non-FREL, you will be seated next to the chairman of the electoral board. May talaga na seat doon. And I think 2 more seats for the 2 dominant political parties. Because Sir Dan and Mamelay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was sa orientation, there should be no more than 10 people in the polling precinct at one time. Iko-control siya gawa ng distancing due to pandemic. So your experience with NAMFREL will be one for a lifetime experience. Talagang hindi ka masasabihan because kayo mismo magsasabi dito because you are there. Rather, kung hindi ka NAMFREL volunteer, wala kang sa access sa ganitong mga pangyayari. And the 4th reason is, tayo ay mga scholar ng bayan. And we are social activists. We should be mindful and doing our share beyond just simply casting our votes. We don't just watch things happen and talk about it. But as a scholar ng bayan, we should do this as part of our social responsibility para sa bayan. As NAMFREL volunteer, you have direct access as observer of the whole election process within the polling precinct where you are seated at the sabi ko na ito, and you are entitled to get hold of the 28th copy of the election result. And as volunteer, you are entitled to free access to the entire electoral process. However, always coordinate with the chair of the electoral board, especially within the voting centers and polling precincts. So if you volunteer with NAMFREL and you are there already, lahat ng galaw natin will always be coordinated with the COMELEC electoral board in the polling precinct. Don't forget that. And then, don't forget also, you will be entitled to your insurance. That's why we will be needing your data. You will be issued an ID, appointment paper, important documents and materials pertinent to the conduct of the 2022 elections, certificate as both UPV Pahinungod volunteer and as NAMFREL volunteer. I'm heading these 2 units. So ito pong itsura ng ID natin. Ito yung sa front face, ito naman sa back part ng ID natin. Dito nakalagay your name as election observer, the province or city or municipality where you are going to observe, and then the signature of your coordinator. At ito yung pledge commitment sa likuran. Right? And then, ito naman yung voters sign-up sheet that will be asking from you so that we have a directory of your profile. Right? So, why should I be taking my active part in the forthcoming national and local elections? Somebody said, for evil to triumph, it is enough for good men to do nothing. So ni-research ko ito siya. And na-find out ko na this must have come from the Mr. John Stuart Mill, and gusto ko siyang basahin. Kasi bakit ba kayo makilahok ngayon sa election na to? Baka sabihin ng parents nyo, huwag na kayo magsalong-sawsaw dyan, magulo yan, gano'n-gano'n. Pero remember, as scholar ng bayan, we are social activists. We cannot just simply stand there. Sabi ni John Stuart Mill, let not anyone pacify his conscience by the delusion that he can do no harm if he takes no part and forms no opinion. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. He's not a good man. who, without a protest, allows wrong to be committed in his name and with the means which he helps to supply, because he will not trouble himself to use his mind on the subject. I will not dwell on this slide. Okay. So the third is, what are my expected roles and responsibilities as NAMFREL volunteer? One, you will be an observer and documenter. But how will you carry out this role? As a first-hand witness, you record everything that's taking place which you think is important to you and in your role as NAMFREL observer. Ask questions and clarification of what's going on if hindi klaro sa iyo, kung hindi natin na-pick up sa mga sinasabi ni Sir Dan at sa Ma'am Elay kanina, dahil mabilisan yon at saka ang dami nun, so na information overload na tayo, plus ito pa, dinagdag ko pa yung information na to. But always ask questions and clarifications from any member of the electoral board, or better yet, to the chair of the electoral board. Siya kasi ang pinaka-king doon sa polling precinct na yon. Take photo only upon approval of the electoral board chair, especially inside the polling precinct. Please, 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 we don't want to be accused that we are stealing information. No, please. If you're a NAMFREL volunteer, you are expected to exercise the highest form of ethics. Kasi volunteer tayo, hindi tayo binayaran at hindi tayo bayaran. So, only take photo. Ako, I did that several times, no? But I always ask, Ma'am, is it okay, Ma'am, for documentation lang po namin ito? For learning lang, kasi I'm professor ako, I can use this as classroom material. Lahat naman pinapayagan, basta magpaalam lang. Second, our role is monitor. You will be asked to report online or through mobile apps your own direct observation during the day. Marami tayong forms na ipapamigay sa inyo, but there are apps as well that you'll be asked to upload to answer those questions during the election day. Kasi binomonitor ng NAMFREL ang mga nangyayari. Again, liwanagin ko lang, ang role ng NAMFREL is we are supporting the COMELEC. We're not challenging the COMELEC. Whatever we do is to help COMELEC carry out its tasks today and in the future. Third, reporter. Whatever you have shall be reported to your coordinator. All your observations to your immediate coordinator or to the NAMFREL National Headquarters for proper action. In reporting, be factual. Pag sinabi mo na, halimbawa, ito nakita mo talaga, first-hand information yon. Or sinabi mo na I overheard, then you say overheard. Or perception ko lang, sa tingin ko ganun lang. Ganun po ang pagkasabi natin. Don't say, huwag mo na palakbasin na totoo yung narinig mo lang. Okay? We don't want to spread false information and disinformation na pagkagaling sa atin. The other role is we are additional support to COMELEC's electoral board, especially in the day of elections, because the workload of the electoral board is already overwhelming. Grabe yung trabaho ng electoral board at tatatlo lang sila, no? And they also experience anxiety and stress kasi nga pag nagkamali sila from the start lang ng pag-open ng polling precinct hanggang matapos siya, grabe ang stress nila. So it would be good if nandun tayo, nagpapakalma tayo, we offer hand kung kinakailangan. Yun lang. And then just be an additional hand or to support the COMELEC. Number 5, we witnessed the identification of the COMELEC designated precinct to be subject to the random manual audit. So tayo ang tinatawagan ng COMELEC niyan pag may na-identify na ito yung random manual audit na precinct na to be subjected to. So, pupunta tayo doon. Okay? Hanggang ma-ship na yung BCM na yon to Manila, nandun pa rin tayo dapat. Kasi for transparency, for lahat na yon, to ensure the public that hindi siya manipulate ni sino na sino lang. Kawawa nga ditong COMELEC, no? Kasi sila naman talaga may hawak. But kung meron tayong another party like NAMFREL, we can vouch na yes, this activity took place, blah, 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 blah. So, hindi na erode ang public trust sa ating mga institutions, lalo na sa COMELEC. So, you can be the coordinator for the municipal, city, province, congressional district, or the region. I'll substantiate that with the next slide. So what do I need to prepare as NAMFREL volunteer? 1, prepare for your role as NAMFREL volunteer by studying the permanent documents. Ang dami-dami niyan. Ako nalulula din. kasama pala natin dito ngayon si Miss Christine Tapis, no, from the NAMFL National Headquarters, and ang dami ng mga materials na dapat natin pag-aralan para we can carry out our role naman on the day. So we observe, we participate in COMELEC mandated activities before, during, and after the election. So hindi natin alam, kayo siguro hindi you're not familiar or aware of, maraming nangyari ang ginagawa sa COMELEC. So ako, I have attended several instances to witness ang pag-finalize ng COMELEC dito sa Iloilo City ng list of voters. Nabanggit ng dalawang speakers kanina, mayroon tayong PCDBL at saka ECDBL. Ano yung mga yun? Ang daming mga terms kasi. ECDBL is computerized list of election computerized voters list. Election day is election, ano ba? Election day. EDCBL, election day computerized voters list. Yan. That will be posted on the election day. That same list should be posted also in the same polling precinct weeks before the election day. Para ang mga tao makapunta doon, ma-verify nila kung anong polling precinct sila. Kasi kawawa naman, sayang naman na ma-disenfranchise sila dahil hindi nila nakita ang pangalan nila. And I'm going to bring you back to the 1986 presidential snap elections where I first served as Bantay ng Bayan, NAMFL volunteer at UP Los Baños. No? I was doing my master's then. And kasi nga, yan ang parang formal, kasi sabi ko kanina may 1984 na batasan pambansa election, but that was, sorry ha, para siyang house show lang kasi noon eh. Pero 1986 talaga, that was the highly contested election because it was personalities involved, Corazon Aquino and Ferdinand Marcos Senior. So, on the election day, doon sa polling precincts, maraming tao naghanap na kanilang pangalan, hindi nila makita ang pangalan nila. So, remember that was in Los Baños, yet they were told to go to Calauan, to go to Calamba, to go to San Pablo. So, and ang summer noon, ang init kaya noon, February na yon. So, maraming tao na disenfranchised dahil doon. So that, in a way, it also erodes the trust sa institutions natin. Pero today, maraming ginagawa ang COMELEC to help ensure that people will not be disenfranchised on their rights to vote. So I will upload all these pertinent materials and documents to our messenger group chat as soon as you have indicated your intention to volunteer on the election day. You are also expected to attend the orientation program for volunteers scheduled next week, 27 and 29. Dalawa itong schedule na lagay ko dahil this is all over the Visayas. So whoever cannot make it on the 27 will have another chance on the 29. And you'll be part of a messenger group that will be created for this purpose. So you can also invite like-minded individuals or groups to join you in this advocacy. Maganda kasi kung yan, grupo eh. Pag ikaw lang mag-isa doon, mag-volunteer, mag-observer ka, medyo nakakapagod siya, nakaka-bore siya. Pero kung marami kayo at marami kayong makakalap na information that you can put together para mas comprehensive yung observation report ninyo. Before that, you can visit the local COMELEC office and introduce yourself. Bring your ID and appointment paper, alcohol, face mask, umbrella, sunblock. Ito naman during the election day na yan. Ito pala, dapat ito siya. NAMFL ID, voter's ID, NAMFL appointment paper, box card, water, snacks, extra t-shirt, and sunblock. Kasi nga may init. And alam ko for the women, very particular sila dito. So, because kung hindi tayo equipped sa ganito, this could hamper us in carrying out our role as NAMFL volunteers. But pag nandito naman itong lahat na to, so we can carry on normally dahil kumpleto ang ating armory. Number 7, be at the polling precinct of your assignment as early as 5 o'clock in the morning until the canvassing is over and the packing of the election paraphernalia with the COMELEC Electoral Board. My experience in the past elections is that kasi this time extended nga sabi ni Sir Dan kanina, election hour natin. So, they will start at 6, so be there by 5 a.m. kasi kailangan ng COMELEC ang volunteer, ang observer, when they do everything. Open the polling precinct, buksan ang ballot box na yon, the receptacle na yon to see na walang laman talaga noon hanggang pag-activate ng machine, the pin and everything. Kailangan ng observer doon. So, and ang matatapos naman siya this time, like in 2019, matatapos naman siya sa polling precinct, mga 7 or 8, matatapos na siya. So, packed na lahat yan. Lahat na yan. Naka-impake na yan. Number 8, we will be asked to fill up the Google form that we will be putting out later as number volunteer in the directory. Number 9, be of help to those who are first-time voters. Ayun, tanong kasi kanina kay Ms. Maniego ba yun, na about what can you do. Sa polling precinct, although sinabi naman Sir Dan sa Aklan, kanina na lahat naman first floors. No? Pero kahit first floor siya, merong iba doon na naka-wheelchair, may iba doon na naka-crutches. So kailangan nila ng help. Ay kung sino pa naman ang pwede mag-help doon, yung volunteers ng dalawang political parties at saka ikaw as volunteer, pwede ka magtulong doon. No? Pero yung tungkol sa assist in the filling out of the ballots as well as gano'n. So sinabi ni Sir Dan yan kanina. So, ayan. How can you do that? Ito yung sinabi nito kanina, but I tried to download kasi you can help, you can start doing this yourself. I did this last night. Kasi sa grupo namin kasi, may pinost doon na information. Then I tried last night and I got it. So what is this all about? Voter verifier. So you can check which polling precinct you are in. If you go to this website and fill, very simple lang information doon. First name, middle name mo, last name mo, and then province or city where you come from, and then, or whether you come from local or outside the country. Yun lang, and it will show your polling precinct. So you can also help this sa mga iba dyan para mabawasan na yung pagdating doon. Saka pa sila maghahaluskay ng mga, kasi sinasuggest ko rin ito sa COMELEC, Sir Dan, try nyo rin ito sa Aklan, Sir Dan, na sinasuggest ko kasi because of the pandemic, kung maaari kasi yung sa election day, ADCBL, yung nakastack lang yung yung mga list. So ang sinasuggest ko is for COMELEC to do this, yung side by side. Yan. Tapos kung maganda ba naka-label ng alphabet doon sa taas para the people will just go straight to that side rather than nagatumpok sila in just one bunch of voters list. So I'm moving closer to the end of my presentation. Manpower needed and what you can do, we would like to have as many volunteers across the municipalities, provinces of Region 6, 7, and 8, and you can help, maybe you can help us on this if you volunteer. Not all of you are coming from Region 6, 7, and 8, but you're enrolled at UPV. You can go to the NAMFREL in your region, okay? And but for our students who are coming from these regions, please, we are inviting you to volunteer dito sa regions natin. I'm the head for the whole Visayas regions. And also you can talk to and invite your friends to volunteer even right in their polling precincts. Kahit doon na lang, guys. Kahit doon na lang sa polling precinct, you don't have to go beyond outside pa. Kasi marami na kayong makukuha ng information doon, observation doon, na first hand, na pwede nyo, na ibigay nyo sa NAMFREL, and we can use those information. And you can also be willing to serve as volunteer coordinator beyond your barangay, no? Or kahit polling precinct lang, or the whole barangay, dahil in one barangay there are several polling precincts, or to the municipality, or to the whole province, or the whole congressional district, or the whole region. Kailangan namin na maraming volunteers. And we, with you, sa UP, we will be glad to have you because alam naman natin madali kayong kausapin. Or we also need people to help us in the administrative side, logistics, coordination, and all. Lastly, yan. Ito yung important reminders natin. As volunteer, our role is to support the COMELEC. We are not there to question and challenge any observed deviation of procedure, but we can ask for clarification and document your observation by writing down your notes. Ako guys, kung pumasok ako, pag nagboto ako, from the moment I nadul ako sa door, tinatiman ko na siya, and then what transpires, every movement doon hanggang makalabas ako doon. Mas maganda kasi yon that you have a personal account na naka-record talaga siya. Then you can say, pag sinabi nila, sobra naman ang bagal na, tagal naman doon sa presinto na yun, then you can say that hindi naman ho lahat. Kasi experience ko, it took me only like not more than 30 minutes, and I was able to cast my votes na. And ako, I did that kasi I was moving around Iloilo City at that time when I was the coordinator for Iloilo City, and then one time another coordinator for province of Iloilo and Iloilo City, another time coordinator for Guimaras, and this time I'm for all over the Visayas. Second, take photos, but only upon getting the clearance from the electoral board chair. Okay, nasabi ko na kanina. Take the experience as your own lessons learned that can lead to changes and reforms in the COMELEC, in the conduct of the automated election system, and maybe in your observations when collated at the NAMFREL level can help shape the policy reforms and other initiatives in the conduct of Philippine elections in the future. Remember always that the documentation we have gathered on the ground are valuable inputs that COMELEC, that NAMFREL National Headquarters shall use to support the needed changes in COMELEC. Number 5, in bold letters, be non-partisan and appear non-partisan all throughout. We don't want to taint the name of NAMFREL as a partisan body. Mawawala ang ating credibility niyan. Do not attend and entertain media interviews. Ayan, madali yan. So nakita, NAMFREL ka pala. What can you say about the election? Blah, 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 blah. Refrain from entertaining interviews. Because, kung minsan and kadalasan, maganda ang sinasabi natin, but that could be tweaked and twisted, intentionally or not, or carelessly, and magkakaiba na at pagda-trace ang source, taga NAMFREL volunteer ang pinanggalingan nito. So, para safe na lang tayo, wag na lang. Refer na lang sila sa COMELEC Electoral Board or to the NAMFREL National Headquarters. If uncertain, call your immediate coordinator. At NAMFREL, ito yung logo natin. It is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. Okay, meron tayong video dito pero na-show na ito kanina regarding sa Bantay ng Bayan. All right, so that ends my presentation. If you have concerns or questions, this is the time. I wonder lang sa class na nag-coordinate dito kung how much time is available. All right, but the remaining are dates na to na we got from the COMELEC. All right, so that's all about my presentation this afternoon.
And thank you so much, Prof, for that very interesting project. We hope that all of us here in Zoom will also be able to attend your most awaited scheme. At this point in time, I will be calling back Miss Patricia to cater and moderate questions from our Zoom room.
Thank you so much, Kayla. So for now, we just have 2 questions. First question po is, since a lot of people, I'm sure after seeing the presentation, feel really inclined to perhaps volunteer or to join the mission as well. Could you give us in more detail, like how exactly you would go about reaching NAMFREL if you want to volunteer, as well as is it like different depending on the region you're in? Because we have a lot of students not always from the Visayas region in UP right now. So thank you po, sir.
All right, thank you, Patricia. For those for you 6, 7, and 8, which is my area, I will be coordinating with your Ma'am Caris about kung sino ang gusto mag-volunteer. And I will post doon yung link ng Google Form natin kung saan you will fill that form para we can monitor how many will be volunteering from UP Visayas. Kasi nga, kailangan natin yung data nyo for the issuance of ID and insurance and kung saan kayo na gustong mag-volunteer. So I will be coordinating with Ma'am Caris regarding this matter.
Alrighty, thank you so much po, sir. And then ang final question po is, in your opinion or in your eyes, after seeing a lot of people, I'm sure, go and volunteer into NAMFREL, what would you say would be the most prominent benefit or the most prominent change you have seen in NAMFREL volunteers being exposed to this type of experience, what really do you feel like they've gained from the experience po, sir?
Okay. Well, let me start with myself. No, I started volunteering in 1986. I was then a graduate student, a young graduate student, and because I saw the value of one person, ako lang, I volunteer. I hired a motorcycle, move around. I spent my own money to do that, and also expose my children. Ayan, that's the other benefit. So sa akin lang muna, since I started volunteering in 1986, that I did in 1988, and so on. After some time, medyo nag-lay low si Namfrel, si PPCRB. So volunteer pa rin ako kay PPCRB. And then bumalik si Namfrel ulit. So sa akin naman guys, kasi it's responsibility. You cannot just simply entrust or ubayan na lang natin ito sa mga, hayaan mo na lang sila dyan. You know guys that maraming nangyayari talaga na mga dayaan, maraming nangyayari na tayo na-expose tayo ngayon sa voters education. Marami pa dyan. Marami pa na hindi nga alam. Sa party list lang for example, na iisa lang ang butuhin. No? So, experience ko lang sa polling precinct mismo. Pagdating sa polling party list, tatanga na yung mga lalo ng mga senior, no, na hindi not well versed. Sir, ano dito sidan ko? Sabihin ko na lang, alam naman kung sige, seniors na lang kasi para na lang safe na lang sa senior citizens kasi hindi naman nagbabasa talaga ang mga tao na yan, no? But that should have been part of the voters education din. That's one. Whatever nangyayari sa election polling precinct, nakikita ko. And I witness to that. Hindi ako pwedeng sabihan lang, kwentuhan lang. And another time also, I brought my son with me sa nag-volunteer dito sa Barrio Obrero. And at first, binigay sa akin ng PPCRB ay mag-deliver ng sandwiches sa mga electoral board. Dati iba, BEI ang tawag sa kanila noon, Board of Election Inspectors sa polling precinct. Alam niyo guys, nagbibit-bit ako ng snacks na yon. Sabi ng anak ko, sabi niya, Daddy, UP professor ka, tapos nagbibit-bit ka lang imuya sa deliver ka lang imo sa snacks. You know, as young as that, sabi ko yun na, when you volunteer, you do whatever task is needed. You fill in. You don't demand, you don't ask. Kasi volunteer ka. And in volunteering, walang malaki, walang maliit na task na ginagawa mo. Lahat na yan, it counts. Right? So, yun lang. You can get from that. As a responsible citizen, it's not only about casting your vote, but also helping ensure that the votes of the others are also counted by being there, safeguarding, serving as watchdog, accredited watchdog of the COMELEC. And of course, dito tinuturo sa classroom, guys. Dito tinuturo sa classroom, no? But you will get a first-hand experience on this. Yes, Sir Dan, nakita lumabas.
And thank you so much for answering the question, and thank you so much, Miss Pat, for moderating our Q&A for Namfrel, and thank you so much for Professor again. At this point in time, for our closing remarks, our very own Miss Carice Emeline Bautista is currently experiencing a technical difficulty. But before anything else, allow me first to give the certificate of appreciation to Professor Namfrel Ruben, and allow me to read the citation. Certificate of appreciation is presented to Professor Ruben M. Gamala, Computer Maintenance Technologies of the Provincial Election Supervisor, Province of Aklan, for sharing his expertise and knowledge for the webinar entitled The Power of One Vote, given on this 23rd day of April 2022. Signed, Dr. Philip Ian P. Padilla, the Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Professor Nathaniel G. Samson, the NSTP Director, and Ms. Carice Emeline M. Bautista, the NSTP LTS Instructor. Once again, thank you so much, Professor, for being here with us this afternoon.
as going back to what I was saying, for our closing remarks, our very own Miss Caris Emeline Bautista is currently experiencing a technical difficulty, and I think the others in this room are also experiencing that. And it's normal. These are the things that we cannot really control. So on her behalf, I would like to thank you all for joining us in the NSTP LTS Voters Education Webinar. This part of the UPV NSTP Literacy Training Services efforts to promote civic literacy in accordance with the World Economics Forum 21st Century Skills Framework. We hope that aside from deciding who to vote, this webinar has been value adding to our first-time voters as we become well-versed in the technical instructions and making our voices heard in the way the Filipino nation will be governed by casting our votes come May 9, 2022. So thank you so much also to the Section 1 and Section 7 students for organizing this event, and especially for the support of our NSTP Director, Professor Nathaniel Samson, and our partners in nation building and safeguarding the electoral processes, the COMELEC of Iloilo City Office, and NAMFREL. May the Filipino voters, young and old, first time or seasoned, be able to cast their votes in such a way that this great Filipino nation will be propelled forward by deserving candidates. Thank you so much and good afternoon. So I hope she's here with us today, but this afternoon, but then we have to move on to the next part of our program where supposedly Miss Caris Bautista will also be presenting the certificate of participation to our participants here today. So allow me to do that on her behalf. The certificate of appreciation is awarded to Alisa Balberano for giving her time in organizing the webinar entitled The Power of One Vote, organized by UPV NSTP LTS Section 1 and 7, which aims to raise awareness and preparedness of first-time voters for the 2022 presidential elections, given this 23rd day of April 2022 via online platform Zoom. Signed, Professor Nathaniel G. Samson, the NSTP Director, and Ms. Charis Emeline Bautista, the NSTP Instructor. The same certificate of appreciation is also awarded to Frijan Francisco, to Charles de la Cruz, to Ariel Mancol, to Sydney Mariano, to Kyla Sabdal, to Patricia Samaniego, to J.M. Celerio, so thank you so much, everyone, and congratulations again. I would like to thank everyone for being here today. The fact that you gave your presence in this webinar is already a thing that we all do in the service of our own country. And this coming May elections, please never forget all the things that you've learned for today, the step-by-step process, and all the other things, and all the other reminders that we are told as first-time voters. This coming May 2020, I hope that we will all be able to cast our votes for our country. So again, we would like to remind everyone to fill in the feedback form sent in our chat box right now. We would like to once again remind everyone to check our chat box and fill in our feedback form. So mga eskwalaro ng bayan, as we vote, always remember that voting is the expression of our commitment to ourselves, one another, this country, and this world. Always also remember to choose the right person for the right position, because your vote and my vote, they all matter. So together with me earlier, Charles Kennedy de la Cruz, and I am Kyla Sabdal. As we end, let us all together sing the UP Naming Mahal.
Once again, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. So that ends our webinar. And thank you again for being here. We hope that you will stay safe and well, and may you bring everything that you've learned for today in this coming May 2022 elections. Thank you again once again. You may now leave the Zoom room.